Welcome back to the BookCast. Today we are unpacking every layer of the incredible novel Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog.
Oh, it's just fantastic.
Get ready for a deep dive into its characters, themes, and the hidden meanings behind the story.
It's a truly magnificent piece of literature, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's so remarkable about Three Men in a Boat is how it manages to be both laugh-out-loud funny and, well, also a surprisingly insightful commentary on human nature, the quirks of Victorian society, that simple search for contentment. It's far more than just a travelogue. It's this delightful, kind of meandering journey into the human psyche.
Absolutely. And you sense that complexity, that wit, right from the very start. The full title, Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog. It already gives you a peek into that dry, self-aware humor Jerome is known for.
Yeah, it does.
It's an immediate invitation, like into a world where the trivial is celebrated and maybe the profound is found in the everyday. Jerome's style is instantly recognizable, much like his earlier work, Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow.
Right. He explored that same comedic potential there, didn't he? Introspection, everyday observation.
I think it was likely.
Precisely. This novel is published by A.L. Burt Company in New York, but dated London, August 1889. And it immediately establishes this playful, almost conspiratorial tone with the reader. Jerome, in his preface, he really doubles down on this. He claims the book's chief beauty lies in its simple truthfulness. He insists it's nothing more than a record of events that really happened.
Which, if you've ever read Jerome, you know.
Yeah.
That immediately tells you you're about to embark on a journey filled with anything but simple truth.
Right.
The irony here is just palpable, isn't it? A brilliant piece of literary misdirection. He uses this claim of stark reality to set up the most wonderfully absurd, exaggerated, often utterly farcical situations that are coming.
He does.
It's like he's leaning in, winking at you, sharing a private joke before chapter 1 even really gets going. He's telling you, trust me, this is real, knowing full well the entertainment comes from how far he can stretch that definition of real.
It's foundational to his comedy, that style. Taking a seemingly straightforward idea and then just twisting it through exaggeration, digression, until it becomes something hilariously unexpected.
Yeah.
And he does the same with his characters. George, Harris, Montmorency the dog. Not poetic ideals, as he says, but things of flesh and blood. Makes them tangible.
He even gives George's weight.
Exactly. About 12 stone, which is, what, 168 pounds, something like that?
Yeah, roughly.
This grounding in specific, almost mundane reality makes their later absurdities even funnier. You feel like you know these guys, or guys like them.
Totally. And then he asserts that for hopeless and incurable veracity, nothing beats this book. It's such a grand, sweeping statement, sets an incredible expectation.
It really does.
It makes you wonder, okay, what kind of lesson is this uniquely charming, supposedly factual, but clearly preposterous journey going to teach us? You're immediately hooked.
Yep.
By the promise of both relatable characters and, a guaranteed dive into utter glorious shenanigans. This blend of the ordinary and the extraordinary, that's really Jerome's genius.
It's a masterful invitation, really. He's inviting you not just to read a story, but to join in the joke.
Yeah.
To appreciate that delicate balance between the mundane reality of a river trip and the wildly imaginative, highly subjective experiences of his characters. This interplay between expectation and reality, often with funny results, that's a thread running through the whole thing.
So, with that perfect scene set, let's dive into chapter 1. This is where the journey, the whole premise of the adventure, really begins with what I like to call the Invalid Club.
Ah, yes, the opening.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. We find our four companions, the narrator, who we assume is Jerome, J, often,
Right.
along with George, William Samuel Harris, and, of course, Montmorency, the feisty fox terrier. They're gathered in a smoky room feeling utterly seedy, as they'd say.
Very Victorian.
And the main topic of conversation, their various self-diagnosed and quite mysterious ailments.
It's instantly relatable, isn't it? That thing where you sit around with friends just commiserating over every little ache and pain and vague symptom.
Totally. Harris kicks things off detailing his extraordinary fits of giddiness, which sounds pretty vague.
Yeah, doesn't seem like he knows what it is either.
Not really. But it's Jay, the narrator, who truly takes the cake with his grand theatrical self-diagnosis. This is where Jerome really starts sharpening his satirical knife.
Oh, absolutely. The narrator explains how he got his supposed liver problem, not from a doctor, mind you,
Oh,
but from a patent medicine circular, which immediately tells you about one of Jerome's satirical targets, right? That unregulated, often absurd patent medicine industry.
exactly. Preying on public anxieties. And then he launches into this truly grand, wildly exaggerated self-diagnosis. It's one of the funniest bits in the book still.
It's phenomenal. He lists off basically every illness he thinks he caught from that one circular. Distemper, some devastating scourge, typhoid fever, St. Vitus's dance, cholera, diphtheria,
Housemaid's knee. Don't forget housemaid's knee.
housemaid's knee, gout, zymosis. He concludes with total conviction that he was a hospital in myself.
Incredible.
It's not just hypochondria, it's like hyperhypochondria taken to this mythical extreme, a complete collapse of rational thought.
The sheer scale of it is where the humor lies. He doesn't just have a cold. He is the medical textbook, a walking encyclopedia of suffering.
Ah, exactly.
It immediately establishes the narrator's unique comedic voice, his tendency towards dramatic exaggeration, and, well, his delightful unreliability. It's brilliant satire, not just on patent medicines, but on that timeless human tendency to self-diagnose, catastrophize,
Oh, yeah.
and maybe indulge in a bit of self-pity, turning a minor thing into a grand personal drama, like the illness is a badge of honor.
And the cure for this walking hospital, even funnier, so simple, so direct. He visits this, what was it, a cooperative store and family hotel chemist?
Quite a mouthful.
Right, another little jab maybe at those diverse, often unqualified providers back then. And the prescription he gets isn't some fancy potion, but this really wholesome, if strict, routine.
What was it again?
1 pound dough steak with 1 peat bitter beer every 6 hours. 1 10-mile walk every morning. 1 bed at 11 sharp every night.
Huh. Simple as that.
And he truly believes this saved his life. It highlights this, pragmatic, no-nonsense approach that clashes completely with his earlier drama.
It's brilliant, isn't it? A testament to how simple things sometimes work, or we think they work, especially with a dose of self-belief. But Jerome's humor goes deeper. He makes that observation about how medicine back then often blamed laziness, a general disinclination to work, on a liver complaint.
Right.
And our narrator, with typical hindsight, decides his own martyrdom as a baby must have been a liver problem all along, not just being a baby.
Laziness was just a medical condition. What a brilliant excuse. Imagine him as a baby, refusing to lift a finger, blaming his tiny liver. Wish I'd known that trick.
Wouldn't we all?
So over supper, they're still comparing symptoms. There's that funny bit about the narrator not wanting cheese, which he blames on weakness naturally.
Another small, relatable detail that grounds the absurdity. But it's George who actually offers the turning point, moves them from complaining to action.
Mm-hmm.
He proposes rest and a complete change to fix the overstrain upon our brains and restore their mental equilibrium. Sets the stage for the adventure. It's actually a sensible idea after all their drama.
A moment of clarity in the hypochondriac fog. And that sensible suggestion immediately sparks a debate about where to go. George suggests a week up the river.
But Harris objects immediately. Doesn't want a humpy sea trip.
The sea trip woes. The narrator jumps right in with some fantastic, totally convincing stories about why the ocean is a terrible idea.
He absolutely does. He tells that story about his brother-in-law's miserable sea voyage. So seasick, so full of regret, the poor guy practically gave away his return ticket for 18 pence.
Just to get off a ship.
Exactly. Paints the sea as pure misery, not leisure.
And then the other story about the steward trying to push this fancy meal plan on a friend who just wanted simple stuff, boiled beef and strawberries.
Demonstrates how the reality of sea trips, the rigid routines, the discomfort, often fall short of the adverts. These stories are like mini essays arguing against the sea.
Totally persuasive.
And of course, the narrator has his own weird method for preventing seasickness.
Yeah.
Standing in the middle of the deck, moving with the ship.
Right.
And he humorously, illogically claims nobody ever is seasick. Like it's all in your head. Another example of his confident but totally illogical pronouncements highlights the absurdity of trying to rationalize the uncontrollable.
Classic Jerome never lets facts spoil a good story or a strong opinion. So in the end, George's river idea wins. Freshness, quiet, restoring mental equilibrium, and appetite.
Very important.
The narrator actually calls George's idea sensible, which, coming from him, is high praise. Signals they all want something calmer, less challenging.
But despite the humans agreeing, there's one dissenter, isn't there? Montmorency, the fox carrier.
Ah, yes, Montmorency.
His disapproval is hilariously clear. He gets a personality right away. We learn he never did care for the river, doesn't smoke, doesn't like river rats specifically.
He fears falling overboard.
Right. He thinks the whole thing is bally foolishness. He's the voice of cynical pragmatism, a great contrast to the men's often naive optimism.
Poor Montmorency, tragically outvoted, the motion passes 3-1, cementing his opposition right there. He's not just a pet, he's a full-fledged, opinionated member,
Yeah.
a perpetual curmudgeon whose instincts are often surprisingly right, even if ignored.
Exactly. His vote of no confidence really solidifies his personality, grumpy, world-weary cynic, contrasts beautifully with the men's chaotic plans, sets up a great dynamic.
He's the grounded counterpoint to their follies. He doesn't have imaginary illnesses. He just fears drowning, which is actually rational on a river trip.
A much more rational concern. This juxtaposition gives that constant, subtle comedic tension.
Exactly. So destination grudgingly decided by Montmorency. Well, accepted anyway. We move to chapter 2, the planning stage. This is where the real fun starts.
They immediately pull out maps, spread them out, get into the details. Starting Saturday from Kingston, Harris and Jay go first. George meets them later at Chertsey, sets up a clear plan, which you just know is going to go wrong somehow.
Almost guaranteed. And right away, the big question, camping out or staying in inns?
The age-old dilemma. George and the narrator are all for camping. Very poetic about it, wild and free, so patriarchal-like. They picture this rustic, idyllic experience.
Which, knowing them, is just ripe for disaster, their idealism crashing into practicalities.
Always. That's the running theme, isn't it? Lofty ideals meet hard realities of their own incompetence, their reluctance for actual effort. And Montmorency, voice of pragmatic self-preservation, has a clear preference.
What's his vote?
Camping only on fine nights, otherwise. Hotels or inns, thank you very much. He's not romanticizing hardship. He wants comfort.
A very sensible dog. Better grasp of reality than his companions.
Totally. His pragmatic approach leads to a compromise.
Yeah.
Camp when it's nice, seek shelter when it's wet. Sets the tone for their adaptable, maybe slightly lazy approach to adventure. Ready to ditch plans at the first sign of discomfort.
Speaking of Montmorency, this chapter gives us that great glimpse into his rather troublesome but totally endearing past.
Oh, yeah.
The narrator, with typical irony, calls him too good for this world, says his fears are groundless, which is classic Jerome irony because Montmorency's instincts are usually spot on. He's the wisecracking foil.
We hear about his past misdeeds, this list of minor crimes, killing a dozen chickens,
Impressive for a small terrier.
dragging a dead cat around. Sounds grim, but it's told comically. Getting attacked by an irate female who called him a murderer, understandably.
And getting paid 30 shillings a month by a gardener to kill rats.
Right. He's not just a pet. He's this small, furry force of nature. A menace, but lovable in his sheer canine villainy.
30 shillings a month. That's decent pay for a rat catcher back then. And the narrator emphasizes Montmorency's idea of life. Hanging around stables, befriending disreputable dogs, really builds his quirky character. Scruffy, slightly criminal, but loyal and smart. The anti-hero.
He is the unsung hero of common sense. A sardonic counterpoint to their impractical schemes. So, travel plans sort of settled. Harris takes initiatives, suggests settling the packing. A critical, often frustrating step.
The ultimate test of patience. But before they can even start, George gets thirsty, needs a little whiskey with a slice of lemon.
Ah, priorities.
Prompts a temporary break in the packing debate. Adds to that laid-back, almost lazy, humorous tone. Shows their approach to preparations is leisurely, prone to distraction. Serious business can wait for refreshment.
That whiskey break is perfect comedic timing. Delays the inevitable chaos, reinforces that these guys aren't exactly models of efficiency. Immediate gratification over long-term planning leads to much of the humor.
Which brings us perfectly to Chapter 3, The Art of Packing, or lack thereof, a comedic masterpiece. Frustration, incompetence, chaos. Harris, suddenly overconfident, volunteers to take the burden of everything himself, sets up the disaster beautifully.
And this is where Jerome excels with those extended digressions.
Yeah.
The narrator immediately tells the infamous Uncle Podger story. Hanging a simple picture. It's not just funny, it's universal. DIY gone wrong, elevated to art, a microcosm of ambition exceeding capability.
Oh, Uncle Podger, legend. To hang one picture, he needs tools, family members, nails, hammer, stepladder, chair, Will, Tom, Jim, Pam, Mrs. Goggles, Maria. Involves everyone, maximum disruption, loses his coat, finds it, involves everyone again, holding things, finding the hammer. It's a grand spectacle of inefficiency.
And of course, the hammer's dropped repeatedly, wall damaged, massive mess, everyone exhausted. Yet at the end, Podger surveys the wreckage, covered in dust, beaming with delusional pride at his little job.
Haha. Perfect portrayal.
Well-intentioned incompetence, delusion of self-satisfaction, the futility of helping someone determined to be inefficient.
It's so relatable. We've all been podgered, or known one. Simple task spirals into chaos. Group projects where one person hinders more than helps. Timeless humor because it hits that gap between intention and capability. The ripple effects of ineptitude. Jerome just amplifies it perfectly.
After that masterful digression, a comedic break and a warning, George wisely suggests packing only essentials, things that we can't do without, contrasting with the tendency to overpack. But then he extends this practical idea into a brief, surprisingly profound philosophical bit.
Yeah, that was unexpected. Likening excess possessions, fine clothes, big houses, useless servants, superficial stuff to useless lumber, making life harder to pull.
A call for simplicity, suggesting a lighter approach leads to less anxiety, more rest. It's surprisingly deep, hidden amidst the slapstick, a counterpoint to their often trivial concerns.
It's a really thoughtful moment in a funny novel, isn't it? Adds that layer of quiet wisdom, contrasts with the absurdity, shows Jerome's ability to weave in philosophy. Then, back to practicalities, George suggests a boat with a cover. More simple and comfortable.
Practical solution. Iron hoops, canvas cover, turns the boat into a sort of little house. Though the narrator admits it might be a trifle stuffy.
Always the realist about comfort. A quaint image, despite the stuffiness, shows they want comfortable, domesticated adventure, not truly rugged.
And then the bathing debate. George has this ambitious vision. Rug, lamp, soap, toothbrush, basin, powder, shaving tackle, 2 large towels.
The narrator immediately points out how people make gigantic arrangements for bathing but rarely follow through. Classic overplanning for something that seldom happens.
He's spot on. The narrator shares his own disappointing bathing stories. Running into the sea, finding 2 feet of water, sprawling like a starfish.
Oh dear.
Crawling home, pretending he enjoyed the misery. Vivid picture of expectation versus grim reality. A consistent theme, idealized visions meet practical failures.
And George's idea of a daily morning swim gets shot down by Harris predictably, leading George to imply Harris eats too much to swim.
Little jab. Ultimately, undercutting the grand vision, they compromise humorously on 3 bath towels.
Yeah.
Perfect encapsulation of scaling back ambitions to the lowest effort level.
Then the great washing dilemma. George suggests washing their flannel suits in the river, self-sufficiency attempt. But the narrator and Harris, with refreshing honesty, admit total lack of skill. The narrator even calls George a miserable imposter about washing, implying his suggestion was just bravado.
Such a great moment. Debunking the pretense. So, abandoning river laundry fantasies, they decide on practical clean shirts, trousers, socks, etc. Convenience over romantic roughing it. Again.
And so, logically, hilariously, into Chapter 4, packing perils continue, featuring the legendary aromatic Liverpool cheeses. But first, the general food question and a past disaster memory.
Indeed. George suggests a frying pan for breakfast. Harris deems it indigestible. So they settle on teapot, kettle, methylated spirit stove. But this reminds the narrator of a past culinary disaster.
The paraffin oil disaster. He vividly recalls a leaky oil stove contaminating everything. The pervasive stomach-churning smell ruined the food, the atmosphere, even tainted the moonbeams, he claims, with wonderful hyperbole.
You can almost smell it.
The smell followed them for miles, a haunting reminder of their ineptitude, a potent warning about minor mishaps having big consequences, how a small leak becomes a running joke, lasting trauma.
Incredibly sensory. And then, as if that wasn't enough, George innocently suggests cheese for lunch, paving the way for an epic olfactory adventure.
Ah, the Liverpool cheeses. Truly epic comedic escalation. How a mundane item becomes the center of chaos. The narrator tells that long, disastrous story of his friend and 2 splendid Liverpool cheeses.
Their comedic power is amazing. The smell detected 200 yards away makes a steamroller rear up.
Incredible.
His friend detained in Liverpool 3 days just because of the smell from his luggage. Extraordinary testament to cheese power.
His wife refuses him entry unless he buries them. Then that absurd debate about whether burying them is putting upon the widow and the orphan. A brilliant commentary on ludicrous social scruples.
The saga continues. Cheeses passed around, causing complaints, charwoman ill, bargemen disgusted, even a coroner involved, ultimately buried at sea, dug up because the crew couldn't stand it, reburied on a beach, which then gained the place quite a reputation for foulness.
Unforgettable how a single food item becomes a comedic epic. Jerome finding universal humor in specific, exaggerated details.
It's fantastic. After all that, the actual packing for this trip begins. The narrator, despite his self-proclaimed skill, gets irritated by George and Harris, seeing them as unskilled hindrances. He's the capable one, surrounded by bumblers.
And ironically, his own packing is a disaster, too. Forgetting the boots after packing the Gladstone bag, unpacking to put them in, then the recurring nightmare of his toothbrush.
Oh, the toothbrush hunt.
Frantic searching, finding George's and Harris's, repeatedly, never his own. Relatable petty frustration amplified.
The frustration is palpable. Finally finds it in a boot, only to realize he forgot the soap.
Oh, no.
Frantic unpacking, repacking. Sisyphusian task.
Right.
Finishes late, 10:05 p.m. Harris remarks they start in less than 12 hours. George suggests the narrator finish the rest of the packing. Perfect comedic exhaustion.
And then it's George and Harris's turn. Amateur hour. Full swing. They start lightheartedly, confident, but incompetence shows quickly. Harris squashes the jam onto a tomato. George steps on the butter, then tries, futilely, to pack it in the kettle. Fails completely. Physical comedy gold.
Classic.
Yeah.
The butter incident is legendary. Sticks with you. And Montmorency adds to the mayhem. Tries to get in the hamper, hindering them, sniffing around, being a nuisance, proving his natural original sin for mischief.
The packing marathon finally ends at 12:50 a.m., long past midnight.
Exhausted, they agree to sleep inside. Harris wants 7 a.m., narrator 6 a.m. for letters. They compromise on 6.3. And in a final act of petty revenge, they place the bath where George will likely trip in the morning. Delightful ending to a chaotic chapter. Petty grudges, impending slapstick.
What a night. You just know that bath trap is going to pay off, or not. Leads perfectly to Chapter 5. Missed mornings, weather woes, and a chaotic departure.
Indeed. Next morning, maybe the bath trap missed, but Mrs. Poppets, the housekeeper, wakes the narrator at 9 a.m., despite his plan for earlier. Harris also wakes at 9 despite his 6 a.m. alarm. Shared, relatable failure in self-discipline.
And the narrator launches into that hilarious lament about George's hideous sloth, accuses him of wasting precious hours, stuffing himself with eggs and bacon, flirting with the slavery of sleep.
He's genuinely furious George slept so soundly.
Projecting his own frustrations about wasted time onto George's rest. Wonderful characterization, his productivity anxieties.
Great example of internal struggles becoming external irritations. Then another minor tragedy. Narrator's toothbrush is broken. Casualty of the packing frenzy. Predictably, George and Harris deny all responsibility. Adds to the ongoing squabbles.
And, of course, more delays. George insists on unpacking the bag again for shaving tackle. Despite narrator's protests, their journey is destined to be unpack-repack cycles, minor disasters, blame games. Testament to their disorganization.
Then adding to the gloom, George reads grim weather forecasts. Rain, cold, wet to fine, thunderstorms, east wind, general depression.
Oh, dear.
Harris rails against weather forecast fraud, recalls a holiday ruined by a misleading report. Classic frustration with uncontrollable forces.
This leads the narrator to that brilliant satire on barometers. The old Oxford hotel one always saying very dry despite constant rain.
Mocks the new styles of barometers, their uselessness. Humanity's futile attempts to predict and control weather. Perennial English complaint.
He even notes how bad weather makes one's savage good weather amiable. Deep connection between mood and atmosphere. Another mundane observation elevated to humorous social commentary. Weather is like a character itself.
Influencing moods, shaping experiences. So, weather depressing, packing finally done, they attempt departure. Chapter 5 gives that chaotic, farcical cab journey to Waterloo.
Oh, the luggage.
Harris and narrator gather their extensive stuff, Gladstone bag, handbag, 2 hampers, rugs, umbrellas, Macintoshes, a melon, the frying pan. Absurd amount for a simple trip.
Enough for an army. And Big's boy, the unprincipled greengrocer's boy, circles them, drawing a crowd. His interaction with the boot shop owner claiming they're crossing the Atlantic.
Adds public spectacle, misunderstanding, highlights how confusion snowballs.
The growing crowd thinks it's a wedding or funeral. Harris's cousin thinks the narrator is a corpse's brother. Awkward. Fantastic buildup of public confusion, personal exasperation. Jerome orchestrates it perfectly.
Chaos continues at Waterloo, struggling to find the Kingston train, conflicting info from porters, station master, bureaucratic confusion at its finest.
And the twist. They find the train came from Exeter, idled for hours, then nobody knew what had become of it. Classic travel frustration, magnified comedically. Heroes bewildered by bureaucratic indifference.
Finally, after all that, they get aboard, reach Kingston, find their boat waiting under the bridge. Harris takes the sculls, narrated the tiller lines, Montmorency perched in the prow, watchful, maybe smug. Adventure truly underway.
And into Chapter 6. Starting with appreciating Kingston's historical grandeur, George gets poetic, describes Kingston in early summer, dainty sheen of grass and leaf, like a fair young maid, tender, idyllic image, a pause for beauty.
It is, which the narrator then contrasts with Kingston's actual rich, sometimes gritty, history as a royal borough. Recounts nobles, courtiers, grand houses, Saxon kings, even Caesar, layers of history beneath the tranquil surface, Jerome weaving history into humor.
From poetic to practical, then satirical, the narrator's tale about deceptive carved oak. A Kingston shopman selling fine carved oak, a naive friend encouraged to buy it for supposed character-building qualities.
But the narrator debunks it, calls carved oak expensive, awful gloomy, reflects a curiosity shop maniac, not good taste, questions buying things for show, highlights superficiality, folly of perceived prestige, classic takedown of Victorian pretension.
He then shifts wonderfully abruptly to cynical observations on marriage, the paradox. Men marry wives and don't seem to want them, while young, single fellows cry out that they can't get them. Pointed, humorous critique.
Cynical but funny take on relationships. World weariness. Contrast this with rich, childless couples dying moneyless, suggesting emptiness. Then lovers enjoying company without needing marriage, suggesting authentic connection. Sharp social commentary woven in. Keen eye for folly.
Then we meet young Stivings. Curious, pitiful case. Schoolboy, extraordinary lad, full of weird and unnatural notions about credits, honor, unusual for his age.
And his main weird notion, getting sick. Profound tendency to be ill, bronchitis, rheumatic fever, sunstroke, toothache, neuralgia, scarlet fever, chilblains. Believed himself a literal hospital.
Sacrificed school life for illness.
Subsisting on chicken, custards, hothouse grapes as treatment. Brilliant, exaggerated satire on hypochondria, attention-seeking via illness, maybe indulgent Victorian parenting.
The ultimate hypochondriac, turning illness into performance art. From Stevens, narrator pivots smoothly to changing value of antiques, specifically the china dog.
Reflects how everyday items, soup plates, beer mugs, candle snuffers become great-grandfathers, art treasures, over time, just by age. Describes an old blue, wall-hanging kitsch gaining respectability. Leads to the simple white china dog, blue eyes, red nose.
This humble dog, believed by some to be a lost art, relic of craftsmanship. Narrator, with dry wit, suggests it's just fine English art from the 19th century, jabs at those gushing over common sentimental objects. Brilliant takedown of pretentious taste, ascribing undeserved value.
It really is. Shows how Jerome uses these seeming digressions, history, social observation, quirky characters, to make broader satirical points about society, human nature, follies of his era. These aren't filler. They're integral to the richness.
So, after those delightful detours, we sail into Chapter 7. Back to the river scene, social etiquette, and, tomb hunting.
Yes. And Harris immediately tells his story about the Hampton Court maze misadventure. His cousin thought it was huge. They had a very big maze map, full of confidence.
But the map was useless, got increasingly lost, confidence eroded to frustration, shouting directions, getting mocked by others. Harris admits he thought the map was a practical joke.
Eventually rescued ingloriously by a young keeper. Humor of being lost, humiliated in a simple attraction, great physical comedy in the telling.
From that mishap, they pass through Molesey Loch, busiest on the river, bustling. Narrator paints that vivid, idyllic Sunday scene. Sunshine, foliage, boats, colorful people in Sunday garb, blazers, caps, parasols, silks enjoying themselves.
But the idyllic scene is quickly undercut by the narrator critiquing Harris's dress sense, orange and yellow mixes, unsuitable for his complexion. And George's new Oriental design blazer gets a mention. Subtle dig at their vanity, trying to look the part. Back to personal quirks.
Subtle but effective grounding. Then two young women join for a picnic. Narrator notes satirically they're dressed for a photographic studio, not a river picnic. Boating costumes, utterly ridiculous, jab at performative leisure.
And naturally, rowing mishaps follow, confirming impractical attire. Narrator rows, strokes wild and fitful, splashes the girls, admits being wild and fitful at rowing. Even his friend Beau takes over, splashes them too. Shared lack of skill.
But the girls, soaked, claim it was half the fun. Good-natured, maybe naive spirit, delightful moment of innocent chaos, good sportsmanship, contrasts with the men's grumpy reactions to failure.
Then Harris's peculiar morbid fascination with tombs returns. Wants to visit Hampton Church for Mrs. Thomas's tomb. Narrator objects to hankering after tombstones, prefers the living river.
They meet an old, bald keeper with keys, Dickensian character, try to persuade him to show tombs, but he refuses, has his own tombs, describes his family vault at Kensal Green, great-aunt Susan's grave in Finchley, even cries.
Wonderfully absurd exchange. Keeper's misplaced pride, men's discomfort. Harris finds it tedious, abandons Mrs. Thomas's tomb. Morbid curiosity replaced by boredom. Leaves narrator to lug this lumbering old top-heavy barge while Harris is distracted. Fickle interests. Easily distracted.
After the tomb debacle, Harris produces concentrated lemonade, seemingly innocuous. Narrator calls it Sunday school slops, links it to dyspepsia, half the crime in England. Exaggerated pronouncement. Simple drink becomes symbol of societal ill.
And as if that wasn't enough, George has a banjo. Narrator hasn't heard him play. George insists it's very easy. Narrator mildly disputes. Sets up future humorous musical incidents. Seed of melodic mayhem, foreshadowing.
Perfect foreshadowing. More entertainment or suffering, depending on George's skill. Adds another layer of amateurism, potential chaos, leisure fraught with unexpected challenges for these guys.
And so, the chaotic journey continues into Chapter 8. Trespassing, comic songs, cultural misunderstandings. They stop under Willows at Kempton Park for lunch. Pleasant spot, they think.
Tranquility shattered. Confronted by a gentleman in shirt sleeves landowner. Asserts their transgression despite denial. Awkward British confrontation about property rights.
Harris launches into his philosophy on landowners. Selfish for restricting access, blaming the proprietor for blackmailing people for access to nature.
Opinion on everything. Nice little social commentary, even from Grumpy Harris. And then, Harris's unforgettable comic song performance. Narrator describes his fixed idea he can sing comic songs, belief not shared by anyone who's heard him.
After supper, Harris insists. Sings what he thinks is comic, maybe Gilbert and Sullivan, taking liberties with lyrics, meter. Audience, especially young Germans, titter, then roar with laughter.
But Harris mistakes it for appreciation. Sublime self-delusion. Narrator notes resignedly, Harris never sees what an ass he is making of himself.
No, the cringe, ultimate lack of self-awareness. Painful to imagine. But the Germans then ask Herr Schlossenboschen to sing a German comic song. Sets up bigger, poignant, comedic misunderstanding.
Herr Schlossenboschen performs what he considers comic. Narrator describes it as weird, soulful air, tragic and pathetic. Meant to be funny, makes the Germans weep profusely.
The young Germans explain their countrymen hadn't any sense of humor, ironically. Herr Schlossenboschen himself ends up sobbing from his own supposedly comic song.
Narrator, after this confusing emotional experience, admits he's never taken much interest in German songs since. Incredible cultural clash, humor lost in translation, heartfelt emotion mistaken for comedy, subjectivity of humor, cultural context shaping understanding.
Perfectly illustrates subjective, culturally specific humor, how easily emotion is misread. Jerome gently pokes fun at national characteristics, but also highlights universal awkwardness of cross-cultural communication.
So, after that profound, funny misadventure, Chapter 9, practical woes of towing, rudder rebellion, they decide to make George tow. Task he finds callous. Harris says change is good for a man, especially when someone else works.
Leads to fantastic description of the tow line. Perpetually tangled, ghastly mess, soul-revolting tangle, constant frustration. George wraps himself in it, tears trousers, creates babely made doormat of rope, comical self-entanglement.
True culprit, narrator notes precisely, not George, but man who wound it up. Legacy of past inefficiency, complicating simple tasks, always looking for blame. Very human.
He certainly is. Chapter piles on mishaps, rudder comes off, hat overboard, boat hook slips in. George, bad temper from towing, blames narrator for rudder. Petty squabbling escalates.
Boat drifts away, rudderless. Calls for help met with insults. Dunderheaded idiots. Find boat half-mile downstream. Narrator notes Harris's mean and ungrateful act, not giving George another chance to tow. Cascade of minor failures, recriminations, public humiliation.
And then the infamous lemonade returns, destined for more comedic glory. The Sunday school slops linked to dyspepsia, half the crime in England reappear. Leads to Harris's most physical, memorable moment.
Oh, this is classic. Harris drinks it. Leads to escalating physical mishaps. Climbing seat, leaning over, pulling wrong line, upsetting boat, spilling hamper, finally standing on his head, legs sticking up. Refused to move till held by legs. Pure slapstick gold. Defines their chaotic journey.
Fantastic, unforgettable image. Captures the farcical nature, Harris's clumsy, endearing idiocy. Moments like these, Jerome excels at vivid, absurd scenarios stick with you.
Miraculously, adventure continues into Chapter X. Reach Sunbury Lock, 3:30. Appreciate River's sweetly pretty appearance. Narrator skulls, describes effort, passes under footbridge, always detailing exertion.
Scull onward to Walton. Large place for riverside town. Narrator remarks sardonically on similar appearance of all riverside towns. but Walton's history captures attention. Another Jerome historical digression.
Reflects on Walton's past. Caesar's camp, Queen Elizabeth, Cromwell, Bradshaw. Most curious detail. The scold's bridle in Walton Church. Ancient, horrifying iron device to curb women's tongues. Dark, curious artifact thrown in.
Fascinating, grim artifact. Jerome's eye for unusual history, subtle commentary on past gender roles. They pass Oatlands Park, right bank. Famous place, Henry VIII stole land there.
Also famous for late Duchess of York, lived there, loved dogs. Narrator recounts her unique pet graveyard. 50 dogs buried, individual tombstones, epitaphs. Calls it very wonderful. Endearing, bizarre eccentricity of aristocracy.
Delightful detail. Showcases peculiar upper-class habits, excessive pet affections, glimpse into social curiosities. They pass Corway Stakes battle site, Caesar versus Cassivellaunus where Caesar crossed. Narrator jokes they couldn't choke Caesar off that river. Enduring importance, Caesar's stubbornness.
Past Halliford, Shepperton, pretty little spots.
Okay.
Harris's tomb fascination briefly returns. Interest in Shepperton churchyard tomb, but his indignation at my clumsiness rudder incident makes him forget beloved graves. Short-lived obsession eclipsed by fresh grievance.
Priorities fluid with grievances, fascinations, aren't they? Demonstrates how quirks, squabbles consistently interrupt serious engagement, bring them back to immediate petty concerns.
And that brings us to the penultimate section, chapters 11. Finally reach Weybridge, Basingstoke Canal, George's mysterious banjo revealed.
Reach Weybridge, confluence of waterways, Way, Bourne, Basingstoke Canal,
Huh?
geographical landmark. But first thing they see at lock is more personal.
Yeah.
Immediate.
It's George's blazer hanging in the lock gates, George inside it. Oh, what a sight. Lockkeeper rushes out with a drag to retrieve George, who's annoyed, indignant at being discovered so undignified. Classic George. Embarrassing situation, resents being noticed.
Classic George. Even quiet river trip has tumbles. Indignity. After his ignominious rescue, George carries that Curious Oils skin-covered parcel. Round, flat, long handle. Mystery till now.
Harris asks if it's a frying pan, preoccupied with food, practical items, but George reveals it's his banjo. Narrator never heard him play. George insists, very easy. Narrator mildly, tellingly disputes.
Revelation perfectly closes this section. George's musical aspirations revealed. Hints at future, undoubtedly humorous musical incidents. Wonderful payoff from earlier mention. Comedic thread comes together, promising more chaos, questionable entertainment.
So, what does this all mean? Looking back at these initial chapters,
Yeah.
what profound lessons does this lighthearted tale offer about simplicity, navigating companionship, finding joy in the journey even when butter's stepped on, weather's bad, you're lost in a maze? Consider how the novel, through exaggerated mishaps, character quirks, subtly comments on that universal tendency to overcomplicate, find humor in adversity, the search for rest amidst life's slumber.
It's truly remarkable, isn't it? Despite endless bickering, packing fiascos, health anxieties, near constant blunders, they always keep going. They laugh, appreciate being together on the river.
Yeah.
The book celebrates resilience of friendship, overlooked pleasures, even when everything goes wrong. The lumber George mentioned isn't just physical stuff. It's anxieties, self-importance, complications, rigid expectations weighing us down.
Right.
Shedding those, finding humor in absurdity, enjoying the journey with good company. That's the real deep dive Jerome invites us to take.
And there you have it. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us and this story. If you enjoyed it, a simple like or subscribe helps the channel out more than you know. Be good and take care.